Hi, I'm Eileen Bild. I am with OTEL Talk, and today I'm thrilled to have Mr. Ken Walls on my show. Ken is a #1 best-selling author, CEO of a web development and social media firm, and the creator of Grow Live Academy, a comprehensive course on how to successfully live stream to build your personal or business brand and generate revenue. Ken's passion is helping people succeed. Ken has a podcast called Breakthrough Walls, where he interviews celebrities and successful entrepreneurs who share their stories to help people get past influences that may be keeping them stuck. Hi, Ken. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Eileen.
You are welcome. So you are a co-contributor to the book Happy to Crappy, Transformational Stories of Joy. So tell me, your life was in a tailspin and everything was lost. You were avoiding what everyone else knew
Yeah.
because you were addicted to alcohol. And that kind of took over your life. So tell me about the night that you awakened to this awareness and it totally transformed and changed your life.
Well, I thank you for that. My story is one. I was raised in a very, very, very tumultuous and a lot of times violent environment, and I was hiding. I was running from the pain and trying to figure out anything I could do to anesthetize and get out of reality of the pain I was living in, and so. I turned to alcohol at a very young age because that's what I saw going on in my house and as a kid. And so I turned to alcohol, and it did not take long before alcohol became my very best friend in the world. And then eventually that best friend turned on me, and it controlled everything in my life. And at 34 years old, and there were just so many things that happened before that, so many things. Built a multi-million-dollar company and lost all of it, and a lot of other things in between. But at 34, I had it all. I had a business. I had 2 Mercedes, the big house, the family, all that, and a guy sits down next to me at this bar, and he says, "Hey, dude, I put in my 2-week notice." And I'm like, "Good for you, man. Congratulations. What are you going to go do?" He's like, "What do you mean? I'm coming to work for you. Ha ha." And he like punches me in the arm laughing. I go, "No, what are you talking about? I'm not hiring, dude. I'm downsizing." He goes, "Dude, you told me to put in my 2-week notice. I could come work for you." And I said, what are you talking about?" "No, I didn't." And he's like, "You don't remember having that conversation with me the other night?" And I'm like, No, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Dude, I can't believe this, man." He goes, "You know what? Everybody around here knows you're nothing but a worthless drunk. Why don't you go get some help?" And he left. He got up and walked out. And I remember sitting there thinking, and I'm in a very high end, Jack Nicklaus, the professional golfer, I'm in his community here in Columbus, Ohio. I was in that area. So it's a very high end bar. And, I thought I was this top shelf high end guy. And so I remember feeling like there was this ginormous spotlight on me, and everybody in the place was looking at me, is what it felt like. Although I doubt many people even heard it. It felt like everybody was looking at me. And I remember I was on, I think, my 7th beer, had about half of it left. I took a sip of it, set it down, and I just remember thinking, this just isn't going to cut it anymore. I paid my tab and I got up, I walked out. I was sober as could be too. After 7 beers, I could walk a straight line. So I had this unpredictable tolerance for alcohol. got in my car, drove back to the hotel I was living in because my ex had thrown me out. And she didn't like the fact that I hit on her best friend when I
Mm.
was in a blackout. I didn't remember that either. But so I go back to my hotel. I remember turning my phone off, my cell phone, and laying on the bed, closing my eyes, and I was in tears. I was sobbing, and I remember screaming at God. I was past talking to God. I was now screaming at him because it's not my fault that my life sucked. It was his fault. So I screamed at God and said, if you're real, I need your help because I can't do this anymore. And I distinctly remember not wanting to live anymore, but I
Mm.
also didn't want to die. If I would have had the courage, I would have probably taken my life, quite frankly. I just didn't have the courage. I didn't have the courage for anything. And I was scared of my own shadow. And the next day I woke up and I didn't see any burning bushes, or the seas didn't part. And I just decided the next day, you know what, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to go to an AA meeting tonight. And so I decided to drive way out of town because I was important. I drove around in a Mercedes. I was the president of a company. I thought I was the cat's meow, and that's all my ego. But the ego is a good thing. I hear so many people say, oh, the ego is your enemy. No, I disagree with that. The ego, for me, in that moment that I thought everybody in that place was looking at me and judging me, that was my ego. And my ego couldn't take it. And I really truly believe that it was my ego that sent me to that meeting. It was my ego being bruised and damaged and fearful that everybody would find out. And so I drove to that meeting. I drove 40 miles out of town to a meeting and sat right down next to a guy that I knew, a doctor that I knew, in this AA meeting. And I remember looking at him going, dude, what are you doing here? And he's like, waiting on you to get here. And I was like, because everybody knew it except for me,
Except you, right? Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like you hit rock bottom, and sometimes it seems like in life, there's lots of nudges and signs and symbols, and either we ignore it or we don't see it because we're caught up in life and
Yeah.
all of the daily experiencing. And for you to be who you have become and who you are today and what you do, you had to hit that rock bottom and
Yeah.
still be reminded when you tried to get away from it again, going 40
Yeah.
miles out. Um, if you don't mind, I'd like to share when I hear you say that about that screaming at God. I had a kind of similar experience myself, and I think other people might who are watching this interview be able to identify with hitting rock bottom, hitting a place in their life where enough's enough, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I was in the middle of a health crisis and 7 years going, and I made a declaration. I mean, I put my fist up. I mean,
Yeah.
I engaged the will, and I think that's what happened with you. Is it was the
Yeah.
will, it was the ego, it was that frustration, and for me, I looked at this guy, I put my fist up, and I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Take me
Yeah.
or heal me. Now, like you, I didn't want to not live, and I'm not the kind that would take my life, but I knew I
Right.
couldn't move. I couldn't go on the way I was.
Right. Right.
And the interesting thing about what happened, and it's the same for both of us, is because it came from that gut, and I'm thinking yours came from that gut, like, you had surpassed that ego part, the egoic mind, and you went into that heart center and that core of who you are to
Yeah.
say, I want to live. I want to survive this with thriving and strength. And
Yeah.
that's what happened with me. And the next day, that next week, that next month, my life transformed. And I know yours is transformed because where you are today, that path that you've traveled on this journey has
Yeah.
strengthened you. And you know that experience. at the AA meeting 40 miles away where you were sure you weren't going to see anybody who knew you was there. That was I think, an awakening experience for you. So
Yeah.
what came out of that?
Out of, well, I didn't want to be there. I mean, I can remember thinking, my first, I was arrested the very first time at 12 years old, and
Wow.
I was intoxicated, and my cousin and I were playing around in an old abandoned building, kicking holes and just doing karate stuff that kids would do, playing around, kicking holes in these walls and everything. Well, then, we find out that the building was not in fact abandoned. They were actually refurbing this building. We had no idea. And yeah, so here we were destroying property that they were fixing up, and so I got arrested for that, and I can remember playing my entire life playing the victim card, and I played it so many times, and I learned how to play it very, very well. And you'll never meet an extremely successful victim in anything, but I somehow I pulled off financial success and even moments of happiness in my 20s. But for me, it wasn't a matter of I didn't have, like, I didn't want to live. I didn't want to die. I just didn't know what to do. I was lost. But I thought, you know what? I'll go to AA, and maybe if I go to enough of these meetings, I had already been to AA as a teenager and here and there in my 20s. But I thought if I go to enough of these, I go to a few meetings, they'll teach me how to drink like a normal person. And I'll be healed and all that. And when I sat there in that meeting, it was a discussion meeting, so it went around the room, and the guy that I sat next to my left is the first one to talk, so it went around the room like a clock, and I was the last one. It was the end of the meeting, and I said, when it became my turn, excuse me, we're sitting in this cafeteria, big cafeteria with these rafters, and I said, you know I'm Ken. I'm an alcoholic, and for the first time in my life, I said that. I had said it many other times, but for the first time, I actually meant it. Like, I meant it. I knew that I meant it too. And everybody said, "Hi, Ken." I said, so, and I had the whole meeting. I'm thinking, I'm smarter than everybody in here, and they don't know it yet. But as soon as it becomes my turn to talk, I'm going to pontificate, and they are going to understand how wise of a guy they have that's sitting in their presence, and whatever. And so I said, "Hi, I'm Ken. I'm an alcoholic." Everybody says, "Hi, Ken." And I said, so, that's the first time I've ever said I'm an alcoholic and actually meant it. And then I had this whole speech kind of planned out, and a flying mouse, comes down out of the rafters, swoops around the room, goes right past my head, and I'm terrified of bats. Goes around the room, swoops back around, and comes past me. Everybody's ducking. Some women are screaming. I may have screamed. I'm not sure, but like, I'm sure I did. And then I'm like, and so everybody like gets quiet, and the bat's still fluttering. And then he goes back up to the rafters and perches or whatever they do, and I go, I think I'm gonna pass. And that was the end of the meeting, because I wanted to get the hell out of there. And so, pardon my language, excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat.
That's
But
okay.
so I just remember, and the old doctor guy I sat next to, he goes, "Man, that was unbelievable timing. Maybe God's trying to tell you to shut up and listen."
I
And
think
I
he
was like,
probably was right.
wow. And so, from there, I just went on this I went on this journey of learning who I really am. And about a year into sobriety, I not even a full year, about 9 months into being sober and in recovery, somebody talked to me about meditation, and I remember thinking that's not very Christian like to do that. So y'all need to just cool your jets with the whole meditation thing. And and so I eventually, after getting past my judgment of it, I decided to give it a go, and I started experiencing things like having the ability to manifest what I wanted, having the ability to manifest peace, having the ability to manifest not being a lunatic at all times, which I was most of the time, and having the ability to start feeling like maybe I'm okay, and and so I've meditated every day of my life for the last 17 plus years now,
Wow.
and will not miss a day, by the way. It's the very first thing I do in the morning when I wake up is I meditate. I spend about an hour meditating, and I'll be late for a meeting before I miss that.
Wow.
So no matter where I am in the world, either if I'm traveling, doesn't matter. I like my wife knows if we're on vacation, her and the kids leave the hotel room or whatever, and they leave me alone for at least an hour. They go find something to do, or normally at the beach, it's not hard to find something to do.
True.
So, but and I do that every single day of my life, and it keeps me grounded. It helps me with attracting the right people into my life and keeping the wrong ones out of my life, and it's magical.
I teach mindfulness meditation, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and
Yeah,
it gives you the opportunity to gain a better sense of clarity and understanding of what's going on in your life, in your head, in your heart. So
yeah,
I commend you for not missing a day, and I think that's amazing, and it's like you tapped into that trueness of the law of attraction and the universal laws that play out in our
yeah.
everyday lives. Um, so it sounds like you surrendered to a higher power, that power, that energy, whatever it is that's greater than us. And it was a journey of going within in order
Yeah.
to experience the external. So share with me, what it's like for you to journey inward in order to have that experience with that connection of being grounded and having the things that you want come into your life.
Say that what is it? So
Okay,
what
so the journey going inward. So when
yeah,
you meditate, you allow yourself to go inward.
yeah,
So what's it like for you to take that journey inward in order to appreciate and value and allow and enable that which you want to come into your life and keep what's out? I have some tools and techniques, and after you share what you share, I'd be happy to share, what I do for that. But I'd like
yeah.
to hear what you have to say.
I have these right here. These are AirPods. They're noise canceling. So the new AirPod Pro, and when I put those in, it blocks out everything. Like I can't hear anything going on. I put on some form of like um nature meditation music. It depends. Sometimes I'll do some deeper stuff. I can't guided meditation. I can't do. I've tried it. It drives me insane listening, because like you start getting there and then somebody's voice and it's like, no,
Oh,
I was, it's like so. And I'm not judging anyone. I don't, do what you do. I have. I mean, I'm a coach, and one of the first things I talk to my clients about is meditation, and I say, have you ever meditated, consciously made an effort to meditate? And most people have tried on some level, but they go, I don't know how. And I'm like, meditation isn't something that you have to know how to do. It already exists. It's just, you just have to, like, it's for me, I go I literally, I close my eyes and I sit Indian style or whatever you call it, crisscross applesauce. I don't know. I'm probably being not politically correct, but whatever. Indians sat like that. I have Indian in my bloodline, so I can say it. And I literally focus. I close my eyes. I have the room as dark as I can, and I focus everything I have. I take 3 deep breaths in and blow out through my mouth, one at a time, and then I just let it all go, and I focus on my in and out breath at my nostrils. And I've studied with Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's one of the greatest spiritual teachers ever, Deepak Chopra. One of my favorites is a lady named Pema Chödrön, she's a Buddhist monk, and she's amazing. And she says in her teaching, she's like, look, the tiger's gonna run and it's okay. And for the longest time I was like, what is she talking about? I don't see tigers when I meditate. She's talking about your thoughts. Your thoughts are going to run. And people are like, but every time I meditate, I can't stop my mind. I'm like, it's okay. Like, listen, you're not trying to stop your mind. You're trying to live with your mind, and you're trying to have a remove yourself from your mind and get that 3,000, 30,000 foot view of what is actually going on in your world. And it's like Wayne Dyer said, the beauty in music is the silence between the notes, right? So
Right.
it's what we're trying to do, at least in my opinion, for me, is when I'm meditating, I'm trying to get to that tiny little space between the thoughts where God is. And I've heard this, and I love this. When crap is hitting the fan, I almost said the other word for crap, but when it's hitting the fan, we all go, God, please get me out of this. If you get me out of this, I'll never do it again. I swear, and so we're like praying and talking, and come on, God, you got this, big guy. Come on, man. I'm your God doesn't need me to cheerlead for him, nor does he need me to tell him how to do his job. He's God. Like, come on. But like, that's what we do. We're conditioned to respond like that in prayer. Well, for me, I think the biggest problem people have is they're quick to pray and slow to listen. And meditation for me is, so prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening to God. The answers are already there.
You are. Yes. I love what you had just said. And I love Wayne Dyer. I've studied him for years. And um, for me, part of what you're talking about is you take yourself to where there's that no space. So it's the expansion in
Yeah,
order to get into that space to actually hear. You hear in that silence. And I like to say it's the loudest when it's quiet. And
yeah,
that's when actually the unencumbered thoughts come through and the things that are like the truth, the core
yeah,
truth and the core information. And it doesn't come from the head, it comes from the heart space, it comes from the gut space.
yeah,
And we could even say it comes from that bigger space outside of us.
sure.
So for you to be able to have done that every day for 17 years, is that what you said?
Yeah,
That's amazing. I mean, that takes a lot of personal strength to do that. But I guess it's become a habit, right? Like brushing
yeah.
your
I
teeth.
don't, yeah. I was just going to say, I don't even like, it's like I get up, I wake up, I walk to the kitchen, I get a cup of coffee, I go back, and I might meditate for 10 minutes and then take a few sips of coffee, and then I
Right,
set it down and I go back into meditation. So it's, I mean, I know I have gone 30 minutes. I don't put a timer on it.
right,
Sometimes it might only be 25 minutes that I meditate for that day. Sometimes it's an hour and 15 minutes, but and again, it might be an hour and 16.5 minutes. I don't know, but like, I don't put a timer on God. I don't put a timer on me. I just go with it's just now, because some people get up in the morning and they start checking emails. They start, and I do that too. Don't get me wrong. There's times when I know I have a pressing issue I got to solve before I can meditate, and I handle that. But I think that we're all walking around just judging the crap out of ourselves, and then we get tired of judging ourselves, so it makes it a whole lot easier to start judging everybody else, and
Yeah.
so we don't have to look at ourselves. And for me, it's like, man, just, I mean, I'm not like way out there, but like, just, I let people do what they're going to do. I'd like, I do me, you do you. As long as you don't mess with me, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Just
Right.
like,
Right.
let's just, high fives are free today and every day, and let's just be cool. And so, what I, and I won't go into this, but there was this thing that happened when I was about 14 or 15 months sober. I had just read the book by S.P.A.R.K called The Road Less Traveled. And I was starting to like go, wait a minute. I was raised in a Pentecostal church with a Catholic stepfather. And the only reason I ever went to church as a kid is I was in the way of my mom and stepfather. So they put us on a church bus and sent us to church to get out of their hair for a few hours, I guess. So I had no concept of what God really was, and I truly believe that, I'm 52 now. I believe that over the years, my view of what God is has changed so significantly, that if I told most people what my vision or view of God is, they would freak out. But because it's just difficult for them to understand. And I get that. I totally understand that. So, I think we're just, too many people are walking around in this fear. And that's what meditation has done for me. It's released me from being afraid. I'm just not, I'm not afraid of anything anymore. And to live in such a way where it's like, wow, man, I'm like, I can live my life and not be afraid, not be bogged down by all the fears of judgment and what other people think. Like, it's an amazing way to be.
It's liberating, and I can tell, it's allowed you to be in a state of like chronic peace, we could say,
Yeah,
where you don't sweat the small stuff, and if anything does challenge you, you're able to work through it quickly,
yeah,
and it's almost like a full body wholeness, and your
yeah,
mind, your body, your soul, your spirit is in
yeah,
alignment, and the meditation probably keeps that in alignment. That's part of that
yeah,
groundedness that you feel.
yeah.
Um, you say everything in life has a gestation period. What have you
Mm-hmm.
learned about that?
Everything in life has a gestation period. We have to, you know, me being an alcoholic slash addict, I never did drugs really, but if I would have done them, I probably would have died, because I have an addictive personality.
Mm.
So I want what it put me in a state of existence of where I want what I want when I want it now.
Mm.
And if I don't get it, I'm going to throw a hissy fit until I do. And so I am friends with some major, massive celebrities that people all over the world know these people like really well. And I've been sober 18 years. I've been on this journey now for quite a while, and things are just now in the last few years just starting to explode in my life. I'm speaking on stages. Of course, I haven't because of this whole pandemic thing, but But I have people reaching out to me, asking me to come to their events and paying me to speak at their events, and things that I dreamed of 20 plus years ago are just now starting to happen. 20 years ago, I wanted all of this to happen then. And it really bothered me that it couldn't. It really bothered me that I, didn't have everything I wanted when I wanted it. But there's a gestation period. There's a period of time that we all have to go through where, you plant the seeds and you just get out of the way. Man, if you plant the seeds, God's going to handle the results for you. You don't have to, you don't see farmers going out and planting, and Wayne Dyer talked about this, you don't see the farmer going out and planting fields of crops, and then as soon as he's done, standing over it and going, where are you? Why haven't you produced corn yet? What's going on? Right? Like they don't stand over it. They do what they can. They fertilize it, they water it, they do whatever, and they let God handle the results of the crop coming up. They do their part, but they rely on the fact that once that seed is in the ground, that there is a gestation period. That seed's got to do what seeds do once they're planted, and that is they grow roots first, and they grow them deep, and then they, the stalk comes up or whatever it is you're growing. So, my problem is I'm impatient, and I'm still very impatient. If I can manipulate God into making it happen faster, I will. And what's really funny is he knows I will. He knows, right? But I want what I want when I want it now. So my patience is very, very, very thin when it comes to, like, I just make things happen in my life, right? Because there is a responsibility we have. We have the responsibility of setting the expectation and the intention, and then, working our faces off to get there if we really truly desire it in our hearts. Napoleon Hill, the Think and Grow Rich, everything starts with desire. That's the beginning stage. But you have to, the trick is you have to keep the desire. Too many people go, well, I've been married to this woman for 10 years and I just, I don't know, the desire's worn off. And so they start looking for other desires. And instead of, like, dude, go talk to her. If it's not there, you got to figure it out and work it out. Like, figure it out. There's a gestation period, and sometimes there's hills and valleys through that, but you've got to maintain the desire. You got to keep it going and flowing. So anyway, I don't know
Oh
if that
no,
answers.
I love what you've said. A couple of things came to mind as you were talking. It's the natural order of things, and that impatience. I find sometimes I have to laugh because I'll go through some experiences, and something will happen, and then I just have to sit back and chuckle because I know it was part of that gestation period, part of that transition period. And if I had just been in my mind knowing that it's just going to take some time for that to come to fruition. It's not that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But I think the responsibility part is that we are responsible for taking the action, thinking the thoughts that support that gestation period. And I think some are shorter than others. Depends on how many seeds have been planted already, how much work has already been done. And when it comes to what you said about the gentleman losing that desire, that's when we have to do that deep dive and go inward, because it's always not the external. When something doesn't feel good, it's the internal that's it. I don't want to say at fault, but it's the internal that's the catalyst for whatever we're feeling. And it sounds like you know, as much as I'm thinking you got it all under control, you got it, you understand how it all works, but I guarantee or I bet there's still times where you feel like you get the 2x4 hit, or
All the
the
time.
kick, and the push and the nudge. And I think that's the beauty of the journey, when you get to that point where you're okay that you get that little knock on the door, or something that shows you, okay, time to
Yeah.
go to work or time to remember.
Yeah.
And again, it seems like we go through struggle, or we go through a dark night of the soul or something that awakens us to remember who we are
Yeah.
and why we're here, and what the experiences we've been through are meant to help us, not necessarily to break us and destroy us. Um, with that, what would you say has been your most impactful life lesson? I like to say life's the master teacher. And if I feel like you've had some tremendous teachings in your life, but would you, you know, in this aspect of the story in the book, Crappy to Happy, within that story, what
Mhm.
would you say has been your most impactful life lesson?
Well, I write a lot, and so I don't remember every word I wrote in the story for Crappy to Happy. I just don't. Um, but the most impactful thing I've learned in my life is learning how to experience the magic in between my thoughts,
Mm.
learning how to calm. Like I say I meditate first thing in the morning, which I do, but there's times throughout the day where if I just am feeling something's off, first thing I do is grab my iPad and my Apple Pencil, and I start writing about it. Like, okay, let's write out some affirmations, and then I'll lean back in my office chair, sitting here in my office. I'll close my eyes for sometimes it's 2 or 3 minutes, and I just go in, and I just think I go to a state of gratitude. I go to a place that the place, and I just
Mhm,
go there, and
mhm.
I just thank God for everything that I am, all that I've been given, all I've been blessed with, the responsibility I've been given. Once you wake up to the gift that you have, once you wake up to, I've done over 2,500 live streams, and most of my live streams, I have an audience of about 100 and some odd thousand people when I go live, and 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 it's growing nonstop, and I'm like, I have a responsibility to motivate people to reach for the next level in life.
Mm.
Well, if I'm sitting around feeling all sappy and feeling all, or I don't know if that's the word, but feeling all depressed or ungrateful, or why am I not getting mine, which is normally the only thing that really gets me upset, is why am I not getting this deal done or this happening or whatever fast enough? Dang it. There's God with his gestation period again.
Right.
Like,
I know.
like, come on, dude. Do we have to have such a long gestation period? But like, if I can let go of that, and I have a note right here. It's always with me. It's right here on my computer. I don't know if it'll disappear if I.
Well, yeah, the universe, it's,
Yeah,
what does it say? The
the
universe
universe is conspiring for me,
for me. Yes, I like that.
and it's always here,
Mhm.
and so whenever I get all messed up, I got to write things down. And then people don't realize how much power there is in surrender.
Yeah.
And when I go, I really need this to happen. I want this to happen. I desire this to happen. I know that the desires start from God. So like, we're the ones that mess them up by trying to microwave it and make it happen. If I just say, okay, my intention is to create this thing or be this thing or help this person or help this group or whatever, I set the intention, I meditate on it, and then here's the real magic: let go,
Okay. Yes.
surrender, let God handle it. And inevitably, it always happens. It always unfolds.
It does. So,
Always.
yes, and so basically, you're saying we can't micromanage God, right? We can't micromanage that energy that's bigger than us.
No, I mean here's the thing. It doesn't. I love the fact that we as humans have put, and this might, some people might find this offensive. I'm sorry if you do, but I don't think God has an ego problem. I don't think he needs me to tell him how great he is. He's God. I mean, like, right? Like, I don't think God needs me telling him how great he is. He knows. Like, he's God. He created me and whatever, right? So like, I don't try to. I mean, of course, I still try to manipulate God and pray and say, "Come on, man, please." But I know, like, he's already like that part of it doesn't matter. All I have to do is set the intention, work for it, and the faster I let go and surrender to the results, that's where the magic happens. Is when you just surrender and go, you know what? Okay, it's on you. I'm out. You know the intention. You gave it to me. Here we go. And it just, man, it just speeds it up when you let go. But
Well,
you have to let
and
go
it
in your soul. Like, you have to really
mhm,
let go.
right, and it tests and allow your patients to be tested, where you sit back and take those breaths and in those
Yeah.
daily waiting periods, it's
Yeah.
recognizing it's in the works. It's in the
Yeah.
works. I
Yeah.
remember reading one time, and it might have been Wayne Dyer, um, or it might have been in the movie The Secret, I think it was, where you have a catalog of the universe and you pick out what you want, and
Yeah.
then you put an order in for it, and then you wait
Yeah.
for it to be delivered.
Yeah.
It's kind of that same process, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have the monkey mind. We have that we want it now, and it
Yeah.
just takes practice. And back to something you were saying earlier about when you're having a challenging moment and you decide to take time to write it out, write your thoughts out.
Yeah.
I like to call that the power of the pause. And then that pause is where the monkey mind can go away and allow that information to help you make decisions and see,
Yeah.
what direction is going to be best versus kind of going cold and blindly
Right.
thinking this might be right, and then you get that 2x4, and then you
Right.
realize I should have
Right.
stayed quiet. So
Yeah.
this has been awesome. I love your philosophies, and I love the people you have followed. I kind of follow the same,
Yeah.
and there's a lot we can learn from other people's stories and experiences, and I hope whoever watches this can learn a little something and be inspired that no matter how deep, dark our rabbit hole goes, that or how far we've fallen down into the well, that we can climb out, we can get ourselves to a better place than we were before.
Yeah.
So I like to ask my guests to give some last words of wisdom
Hmm.
that you could pass on to the viewers.
Meditate. Wayne Dyer told a story of Deepak Chopra being one of his mentors, and he said, I called Deepak. If I called him with a problem I was encountering, um, I'd call him, and my rear end would be on fire, and I'd say, Deepak, I got this situation. He'd go, Wayne, meditate. And he'd say, yeah, but you don't understand. She said this and this came back, and he'd go, Wayne, meditate. And he'd hang up on me. And did he just hang up on me? Does he not know what kind of an emergency this situation is? And he's telling me to meditate, and oh my gosh. And then he said, and I saw, all right, fine, I'll go meditate. And then it calmed everything down. And so, you know, meditate. That's and again, if you have a religious belief that is stopping you or preventing you from trying it, here's the deal. Don't call it meditating then. Call it hanging out with God. How about calling it listening to God for the first time ever in my life? How about, like shutting my mouth and opening my ears to listen to God, because that's all it is. The word meditate, I think, there are people that are like, no, you know what? In the Pentecostal church I grew up in, man, we don't talk about that. And or whatever. I'm not picking on Pentecostals. I'm talking about any religious organization that would say no meditating. Okay, how about this? How about just going and listening to God and shutting your mouth and listening, quieting your mind and just listening? Because I have a problem with wanting to talk to God and tell him how he needs to do his job. And God doesn't need my instruction.
You, Ken, this has been an awesome time with you, and I wish you the best. Where can people find you?
Ken Walls, WALLS.com is my website address, and you can learn a lot about me there. And I have free downloads you can get and all kinds of cool stuff. But I'm known as the king of live streaming. So I have a course where I teach people how to live stream properly and build an audience and build a fan base and all of that. And so I love my life today. I love, love, love my life and what I do and how I get to impact the world. It's amazing. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
honored, Eileen. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome, and I'm honored to have had you, and I wish you the best, and we will catch up with you later.
Thank you so much.
You're
Take care.
welcome. You too.